Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Perocho, Product Marketing Manager for Community Cloud, and thank you for joining us for our webinar, eWay Delivers World-Class Customer Service with Community Cloud. Today, I'd like to welcome Matt Bullock, CEO and founder of eWay, who runs one of the fastest growing payment processing companies in the world, processing billions in payments each year. But before we get started today, I would like to review a couple of ways you'll be able to interact with us during this broadcast. First is the Ask a Question button in the upper left corner of your screen. If there is anything you'd like to ask today's presenters, please click the button and type your question. We've left time to answer audience questions at the end of the presentation, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. You may also use this button if you encounter any technical issues during the call. Additionally, we want to make sure our webinar offers value content and meets audience expectations. So please take a moment after the presentation to tell us how we did using the Rate This button, which you'll see to the right of the Questions button. To access additional information on today's topics, please access the Attachments button to the left of the Rate This so you can get a deeper look into today's content. If you wish to revisit the presentation, you can do so after the live broadcast on this website under the Live and Recorded section. And so, with all the administrative information out of the way, let's jump right into our presentation. As always, regardless of today's webinar, please make your purchasing decisions based on functionality we've already built, not based on functionality we may or may not build in the future. So, in today's connected world, the number one decision maker that your customers are using to make decisions about your products versus your competition is customer experience. It used to be that your customers make this decision based on price. It used to be that they made this decision based on the features or functions. Now, your customers are making the most important decision for your business on customer experience. What this really means is that your products and your brand are only as good as the service you provide. Now, let me say that again, because this is really important. Your products and your brand are only as good as the service you provide. Now, as somebody that finds himself constantly in airports, let me tell you how important customer service is to getting that seamless experience when it comes to getting on the airlines. Customer experience is everything. And this is especially true when it comes to service and support. Customer expectations have changed. Customers no longer want to pick up the phone to call you every time they have a question. They're sick of long hold times, incorrect answers from uninformed agents, and having to call you back multiple times. Today, customers expect to be able to find those answers online. In fact, research from Forrester shows that over 70% of customers would prefer to get their answers to their questions from the company's website. Now, when your customer reaches for his phone, he expects to be able to pull up a website or find the answer with a quick Google search. Now, I'd like to turn the mic over to Matt Bullock, the CEO and founder of eWay, who recognized these trends in his customer base and decided to take an active stance to improve his company's service. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Jason. How you going? And hello to everyone else. I'm great. How are you?
Doing well, Matt. Really happy to have you on board and talk to us a little about the eWay's implementation of Community Cloud and Service Cloud. So how did you do it?
So before I get into that, I'll give a little bit of a background on eWay. So eWay is, as you were saying, an online payment platform. We've been going for 17 years. We're connected to something like 300 and something shopping carts. We've got close to 23,000 customers, and we process billions of dollars. We've been a Salesforce customer for 7 years, and we're always looking at different products, and that's how we came into using service, because I've been to a lot of Dreamforces. I've gone to 3 of them now. I know people have been to a lot more, and then we saw it at Dreamforce and went, yeah, we've got to have this. I guess that's how it all started.
All right, awesome. So I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about your system before using the Community Cloud? Like, what did eWay use before?
So 7 years ago, we used Salesforce cases, and if anyone remembers back to Salesforce 7 years ago with Salesforce cases, they weren't the greatest. They didn't have any threads in them, so you'd say something and no one could actually hear what you said back. So it didn't actually work that well, and that was a long time ago. So then we moved to Zendesk, which was good, but the problem was that we had service people in our organisation working on Zendesk, and then we had our sales guys with the account information working on Salesforce, and there was this constant massive disconnect. And what we didn't have was that single view of the customer, and it was this constant friction between. The worst thing was for us. Our service guys had to constantly log into Zendesk and Salesforce and have the two screens and try and match up everything. Even though you could put Zendesk in Salesforce, it was still clunky, and it worked, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I know that's actually a problem that a lot of our customers have. So I'm just curious, so how did you deliver that connected experience with Community Cloud?
Yeah, so for us doing it in Community, that was all about putting everything together. So from our point of view, I mean, to sign up and buy from eWay, that's a force.com page. So that's our checkout. That's the only way you can buy from us. So that's kind of cool of how we've done that. And then it was just saying, okay, well, let's tie in sales and service together. And then so once we had them together, then we had the sales console and the service console. And this was really before Community, and just having those two bits where we had, well, everyone just logs in. It doesn't matter if you're in sales or service. You both log into Salesforce and you can see everything. And then what it also meant was the sales guy could share the case with the service guy, so that information was getting across, and also from an opportunity point of view, that the service person could see that opportunity as well. So it gave both the two worlds to be able to see the same sort of data together. And then on top of that, once we then put Community over the whole lot, that then gave us the ability for everyone to be able to search on the knowledge base articles that we created in there. And so we also have external knowledge base articles, but we have internal as well, and those internal help staff actually figure out what's going on. And then we've done a lot with cases and the way that we prioritize what's an important case and what isn't, and the whole routing of where that goes. But I mean, we can talk more about what we've done on that routing. And then I guess the last point there about the deployment of it, we just used a thing called templates, which is the Community template. So unlike where we've written 3 million characters of code in our sign-up process, for us to use Communities, which is really cool, we didn't write any code. And we used Napoli is the template that we used. So I think it's about 5 or 6 templates or something, and it was just pick a box to pick it. So it was very, very simple on picking the template.
That's awesome. And I know that speed is of the essence for any company. And I understand it only took you 4 days to deploy the Napoli template.
Yeah, and most of that was just figuring out how it's all going to work and knowing that these are the categories that we wanted. And then these are the images. So for the images, we just picked photos that we had of customers, and the banner that we've got across the top, which we'll show on another slide soon. I just picked a photo out of iStock photo, which is a bunch of people putting their hands up. So the implementation, it was more about us organising the data than actually building anything in it. I mean, it was like I said, there was no code. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. And most things you just can't build like that.
Oh, that's amazing. So the only things that you had to do was pick the pictures, find the right topics. So speaking of that,
yeah.
So how did you find those right topics in order to put up there to deploy it that fast?
So finding the right topics, I saw this at Dreamforce a couple of years ago about trying to get this data in, and we kind of borrowed on the idea. So what we did was we got everyone in service to write down, and in sales as well, but it was slightly different in sales, but I'll talk about the service one first. Write down every single question that you get asked. It doesn't matter if you get asked that question 5 times in a row, you get asked it 50 times in a day. So then we ended up with thousands of post-it notes because we did it for close to a month, and we stuck them all on the wall to the point that the wall almost fell over. And as you can imagine, thousands of post-it notes on the wall. And it was pretty cool. I mean, it looked really good. And so then we got them, pulled them all down, and then we put them in piles and said, well, that question really is the same as that question. Okay, that question's worded differently, but it really is that question. And then we ended up with a whole bunch of piles. Some of them had hundreds of post-it notes in it. Some of them had 2 in it. And then we really scrunched it all down, and we went, okay, pick the 30 biggest piles. And the 30 biggest piles gave us 30 questions. So we then used those 30 questions, and we then went and wrote really good knowledge questions and answers on those 30. And then we did the same thing on the sales side, that we then, instead of using the data to put into knowledge, we used it to fix our website. So we found things that customers were asking about that should have been on the website. So we did it for sales and service. But service helped build the whole knowledge.
Awesome. So how did that create value for both your customers and employees?
So us having that knowledge was once we had that knowledge, we then built upon it. So we started with 30. We've now got 1,000 knowledge-based articles. And the way that we do that is, if you ask us a question now and it isn't in knowledge, we just create it. So that's why it just keeps on going up and up and up. And as I was saying before, we've got internal knowledge and external knowledge. So from a customer's point of view, they're coming to us with a question, and there's a thing called case deflection, where it actually, you just start typing the question in and it shows you the possible answers on the fly. And then the customer sees it and says, oh, that's the one, and they click on it. And basically what they're doing is creating a case and closing the case all in one action. And the staff aren't even getting involved. So from a customer's point of view, it's incredibly quick. From a staff's point of view, it allows a level 1 type person in sales or service to actually act like a level 3 type person, because suddenly they have the same amount of knowledge as everyone else does. And it doesn't have those buckets where people are holding on to things. So that the whole sharing of stuff has been really good internally, with everyone constantly trying to build it. And it hasn't been that long that we've been on community. So I think it's, about a year and a bit or something. And to go from 30 to 1,000, it's just something that we just do every day, right? So here's a case to create, right? We don't have the question, build a knowledge-based article.
Oh, that's awesome. So just sort of moving into like that whole, how does this whole self-service work? Like you talked about, you had a separate sales system and your service desk was over here. Now you have a community cloud sort of bridging the gap. Can you just sort of walk me through and explain how a case gets escalated from your community?
Yeah, so that screen there on the left is like, they're the pictures of the customers I was talking about. There's the pictures of the hands that I picked. Then there's a leaderboard there. So that's the whole community of how it's working. And then with that service cloud bit underneath it, that's when we have escalation points. So it may be something like you're a top customer. So you ask a question that's going to get escalated to my CXO, Joel Simons. Or it may be something else like a competitor. You mentioned a competitor, so I'm going to escalate it to my head of sales. It might have been something that you said, a word that we kind of picked up that you're annoyed, or even you swore or something, and you're having a very bad experience. Again, that will get escalated, and we'll try and do something about it. So, and those rules, we only have a dozen or so of those rules, but those rules actually change what happens in real time. So there might be something where the case is sitting there, and it's been sitting there for so many minutes, and no one's actually responded to it, so they've escalated. We're just constantly trying to find the things that help that service get to the right person within the organisation to have the right answer as quickly as possible. Awesome. And then that knowledge that I was talking about before is internal, external. So we're doing this for both, right? So for the customer and also internally for our staff.
I love it. So what results have you achieved as a result of setting up this self-service community?
So I've talked to a lot of people about the results over the time that we've done this, and when I tell people, they can't believe it. And I don't believe it either, because doing something in 4 days, so understanding that we had Zendesk and we had 100 cases, and we went, wow, this is really a lot of cases, and this is it. Wonder what's going to happen when we turn it on. It went to 50. And that went to 50 instantly overnight. We went, okay, that's amazing. And since then, we've onboarded 6,000 customers extra, and it's just stayed at that number. It's gone up to 52, 53, but that's it. It's the deflection continually keeps working, and then the real good number there is our NPS. So people think, oh, we're doing this deflection. Surely customers can't like that. They're not speaking to someone. But what it means is the customer gets the answer quicker. The customer gets escalated to the right place at the right time, and the NPS has gone from 48 to 63. And then these other things just about how quick we're doing something. So you think about how can you get the case from 65 to 16 minutes for the response time, and that's because it got routed to the right person at the right time. So it didn't go to someone else but then had to figure it all out and read it again. It went to that same agent who knew everything about it and knew exactly what to say, because they've done 10 others and they're the specialty person in that case, and they actually knew that customer and they could just solve it. So from a point of view of our staff internally, of just less friction for them, less friction from our customer, and it's really what we're about at eWay, with just doing everything, trying to be easy, helpful, and human. It's totally made a massive difference to us as a company and culture-wise how we do something. And I truly believe so many other people can just smash on this same thing that we're doing. Those pictures of customers, that iStock photo, there's nothing in it. It was so easy to do. I mean, I've never had some bit of software that you could just tick boxes and get it to work like we did.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that. I mean, those are just some amazing results. And I know that we have a few questions already rolling in about that. So I'm just going to move right to the question and answer section of this presentation.
Awesome.
And the first question that I get is like, okay, so you were able to stand it up in 4 days. So what was your biggest challenge in launching this community?
So the biggest thing is you've got to have the questions, right? So, and that was the whole Post-it note thing. So you need to build the Salesforce knowledge. And we only started with 30, and when people try and build things, they think, oh, we can't possibly do it. We need 500 or whatever else. We're a big organization, but you don't. You just need your top ones. You can even start it with 10, and we'd get a similar sort of result. So it's finding those big questions that get asked over and over and over again, and just getting everyone behind those questions. So those 30 questions that we did, they had to be written well, and that's why all those numbers are as good as they are, because they're good questions and they're good answers, and they make for happy customers. So putting the effort into the knowledge is the key. And it ain't hard. They're things that your customers want to know, and it's things your staff know the answers to. So it's not a difficult thing. It's just something that you've got to do.
Mm-hmm. So once you launch a community, how do you keep that adoption going? Like both internally with your employees and then externally with your customers?
So adoption's always that big thing that everyone talks about, and it's always the hardest thing in Salesforce is trying to get it. And the way that we got it here was quite a lot of people in the organisation thought it was slightly crazy, and I had a lot of pushback on it, but we just did it. And what we did was we just turned off emails. And by turning off emails, what I mean is that the staff couldn't use emails anymore, and we forced everything into a case. And then from everything into a case, we would constantly say, well, there's a question that's in a case that I don't have the answer for, create a knowledge-based article. And just keep on pushing that. And then we've recently done that with sales as well. They don't have emails anymore. They have cases. We don't call them cases because that might sound a bit weird. But basically, we know where every email is. We know when it's urgent. We know when it's not. And we know who's responsible for it. And we know where it's at. Is it with us? It's like ping pong, right? Is it with us? Is it with the customer? So we constantly now have a flow of where that is. And then we have knowledge underneath all of it that we can use. And then we have community on top of it where people can actually self-serve and find those answers. And then I guess on all of that is that we built gamification into it, where we're trying to get everyone to try and get the amount of the boards on the wall and get everything to zero, right? How many cases do we have? 0. Because previously everyone would just have their emails and they would just do them when they would do them, or they mightn't even do them and they might go home. But now it's about trying to get them done by the hour to naught, and then more come in and go, right, get it down to naught again. So very strong focus on that, and that's what cases allow us to do, and knowledge with the deflection and community with the whole self-serve on top of it. I think it's pretty beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing. And so you weren't scared at all turning off those emails?
I wasn't, but people were. But, we did it, and it worked. I mean, it's a scary thing turning off emails, but now we don't just have an email. Now we have, it's with us, it's with the customer, and then we also have a priority on it, and then we also have a type on it, so we know what type of email this is, what type of case this is. Because previously it's just an email; it doesn't have anything about it. And then when it's got those things like type and urgency about it and a person, that's when we can do escalations, and that's where we can increase the service. And that's the sort of stuff that anyone and everyone can do. And that's not hard. That's really not hard with this stuff.
That's amazing. And just even looking at your metrics, I mean, you saw an uptick in your NPS scores by doing that.
Absolutely. I mean, it surprised me that it went up as high as it did. But people love getting an answer, and they want it quickly.
I completely understand. So if you had to help people understand one thing about communities, what would that be?
Well, if you've bought Salesforce and you don't use communities, I think you just should, just based on how quick and easy this is. Because currently, if you're not using it, you're just wasting so much time. You're wasting your customers' time. You're wasting your staff's time. Everyone's just doing the same tasks over and over again when it comes to service. And even sales, like we're talking about putting us into sales, it just changes the experience. And we at eWay, we're very much focused on the customer. And this has just gave a totally different sort of customer experience to another level. And our customers love it and our staff love it.
Awesome. Well, I know you're a power user, but what is one of the most exciting features you recently learned about Community Cloud?
Well, the thing for us is there's just so many things coming out with Salesforce, and occasionally you miss an update because you're sitting on a plane or you're doing something else. And we really need to focus on what those updates are because you just bring out so much stuff. So for us, I mean, there was one time when I was doing a talk, and then I got off stage and I saw someone, Mike, he's a great guy, talking about this leaderboard feature, and I went, wow, that's pretty cool. You can actually score the people who are on your community who are answering stuff, and there's this gamification part of it. And I said to him after, well, how do we get that thing? And he said, well, you just turn it on. And then we looked into it, and it really was, we just had to tick a box. So we ticked the box, and then we've got gamification, which is that leaderboard that's down the side, and that was just ticking a box. So most of this stuff for me is just keeping an eye on what's happening and what's out there and going, well, how do I use it and how do I turn everything on? How do I do anything to just get that engagement in the community? And that leaderboard's a really cool one to help with that engagement. Even for staff as well, seeing their name up there. I think it's awesome. And there's just so many things coming out now, and I think the big thing for community is, and it's taken a while, but it's absolutely there, is the apps. And being able to put apps in there is going to make it a much more richer experiences, like things like Get Feedback, where we can actually measure NPS within the whole community. And we're looking at, with eWay, building our own app, which will be a payment app where you can actually just attach a credit card to a case and let someone pay or do whatever you also want with a credit card within the community itself. So there's just so many different things. The platform's so easy for people to build. I really do believe these Lightning apps will go off. There'll be so many different cases that no one will know how it's going to end with what can be built in it. So for us, it's just about trying to find what's that next bit that will turn on and keeping up with Salesforce.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know e-commerce is the wave of the future, so we'll be on the lookout for your app coming soon to the Lightning component. Looking at the time right now, we're running a little bit short on time, so I'd just like to move forward. And if you would like to learn more from this webinar, we encourage you to check out the attachments that you see in the top right-hand corner. First is the eWay ebook, Why I Built My Community, which dives a layer deeper into the self-service solution that eWay implemented. Second, there's a Service Cloud data sheet that we created to give you insight into the advantages Service Cloud provides. And finally, we encourage you to reach out to a sales rep to answer any further questions that you may have. And as always, first, we'd like to thank you, our customers, for attending our webinar, and Matt for taking the time out to talk to us today. We hope you have all learned something and taken away from this webinar and taken some value about information and best practices we use here to deliver best practices in service to our community. So Matt, thank you, and thank you to everybody in attendance.
Thanks, Jason, and good luck with everyone with community. It's awesome.